そらく具現化系能力者の技
It is Kurapika. Pretty.
どう考えてもねんだ。
Oh yeah.
たくとんでもねえ連中だな。
コロトフィ。
しちまうやつがいるなんてよ。
何らかの仕掛けがあると思っていいだろう。ああ。
Right, and
問題は建物が密集しているせいで死角が多すぎるんだ。どうしても廃墟全体の2割程度しか把握できないぜ。
ウーボーから聞いた鎖野郎の情報というのは前に話した分だけなんだな。
うん。一緒にハンターサイトでロストラードファミリーの構成員を調べてた時、ウボーがこいつらだって言ってたのがこの写真の中の上段の3人。
Squala.
そして昨日俺は娘と会った。
You sure did.
その娘から能力を盗んだんだな。
そしてこっちが最新のボディーガードの写真リスト。
Ooh.
さらに2人加わっている。
Basho and
もう新しい情報に変わってたのか。
娘自身よりその能力の方が大事なようだ。
right.
父親は娘の占いで現在の地位を築いたらしいからな。
でもなんでこの子ヨークシーに来たのかな。
そりゃオークションなんじゃない。
You just clock something.
団長。
雫、パクノダ。
Ooh.
はい。
ナイスだ。というか俺はバカだ。くそ。どうかしてた。なぜボスの娘はヨークシンに来たか。そこに俺が気づいていればもっと早く鎖の上にたどり着いていた。この娘がボディーガード付きでヨークシンに来た目的、それはやはりオークションだろう。
Because
占いの能力にばかり気を取られ重要視していなかった。
wow, he's so striking.
サイ
Look
ト
at
の
him.
情報によるとこの娘には人体
There it is. He just clocked that,
もう
didn't
一
he?
つの顔がある。
火の目か。
ああ、鎖野郎がノストラードファミリーに入ったのは
Yep. It all came
今回
together.
の地下競売に火の目が出品されることと、それを
God
ノストラードの娘が狙っていることを突き止めていたからだ。鎖野郎の目的は2つ。俺たちへの復讐と仲間の目の奪還。
Precisely, my guy.
コルト
Time to look.
火の目をコピーした覚えはあるか。
Oh no. Oh no.
お前のコピーには円の効果がある。
Right.
どこにあるか分かるか。
Ah.
本物を触ればね。
あったよ。
Squala's got the copies. God damn it. Yeah.
分かった。同じ形のものはあっちの方角、大体2500メートル。
ホテルベーチタクル。
団長、
Dancho.
俺に行かせてくれ。頼む。
Let's see how Crollo handles this.
いいだろう。ただし俺と一緒だ。
了解。
キルア君、
Hey.
クラピカの仕事仲間、左の方見てくれる？携帯切って、すっごい
Nice.
小声で私に何か命令してみて。
右手上げて。
Clutch.
地獄耳。こいつは使えるな。
A little bit of blush there.
確かにあの敷地内で話してる。
He's trying as well.
足音から見て5、6人、女も混ざってる。廃墟から出て反対側に向かってるわね。
すげえな。
Sure
俺も
is.
ゴンも鍛えてる方だけど全然聞こえねえ。
そういう能力だから。
She can
クラ
distinguish
ピカもだいぶ切羽詰まってるみたいね。
male,
私にまで
female.
協力を求めるなんて。
あ、
あの人全部自分でやりたがるでしょ。
He knows all about it.
ああ、確かにね。
あなた、まさか殺し屋さん？
元だけどなんでわかるの？
She noticed
足
it.
音よ。
Ah.
こんなに近くにいてもエスティントだから。
エス？
エスティント、音楽用語でごくごく小さいという意味。
Good to know.
あ、癖になってんだ。音殺して動くの。
今まで会った人の中で一番静かよ。クラピカがあなたを頼る気持ちもわかるわね。
The
こっち
blush.
は嫌々なんだけどね。
あら、そうなの？
Oh, I love
ス
her.
トップ。この道を曲がって100メートルくらい。その先に奴らがいるわ。
Whoa.
他の足音と区別つくの？
癖があるのよ。
Yeah.
それぞれ微妙にね。
6人で行動している。ちょんまげもいるぜ。それとあと1人。俺たちが昨日見ていない奴がいる。
Yeah.
こいつ、おそらくリーダーだ。顔は見えない。
Right in the open though, eh?
土なさすぎ。 正面なんか怖くて回れねえよ。
I love a good chase.
分かってるよエリザ。
Oh
俺だってこんな仕事
no.
もううんざりだ。可愛い犬と一緒にいられるからいいだってそりゃわがまま娘のおもりよりは楽だけどさ今にもっといい仕事
Ah.
誰だ。ルームサービスです。ドアの前に置いといていい。
No. Come on. That's so silly. It was kind of cute. They are trained after all.
マジで早いとこ転職しねえとな。
Oh.
体力的にもそろそろきついし。しかしこいつらとエリザを養うだけの仕事となるとなかなかねえよな。
I'm getting sad for him now.
大丈夫だって俺に任せときな。
He's a goner, man. I mean, it's like right in our faces at this point, but still sad though to think about it. It's interesting that I'm beginning to care about him in these potential final moments.
これ以上近づくと私の敵意に相手が気づく恐れがある。ゴー、ここから駅の入り口まで。
Get gone in
こ
the
の
back
距
seat.
離、私の間合いだ。奴らに存在を気づかれずに攻撃できる距離。ここから攻撃が到達する。
Oof, and yeah,
約
gone.
0.5秒。奴らほどの使い手ならば余裕でかわせる時間だろう。何かに気を取られない限り。
Right there in the open.
雲。
Oh, great shot.
動いてる。下にゆっくり降りてる。
エレベーターだな。
ゴー。
Whoa.
ホテルの方へ走ってる。早い。車で先回りしたら。
夕方のラッシュの時間だ。車より奴らの方が早いかもしれねえ。
Okay, it's a foot chase now.
私が連絡するまでここで待っていろ。待ってクラピカ。いい手が浮かんだんだ。クラピカってば。ああ、私が追ってる。まさか走っておかげで。
Krapika.
やばいって。絶対気づかれるぞ。すぐ駐車。切りやがった。
He's stubborn like that. He can be.
すごい、何あれ。忍者だ、忍者。
No, there's some bad motherfuckers.
2時の方向へ時速40キロほどで移動中。
Oh, he's in a car now.
だな。
今日で最後だ。
Yeah, you're quitting forever.
クラピカについてっちまったよ。俺も待機してろって言われたんだが、じっとなんかしてくんねえから。ベージタクホテル方面へ走らせてるが、ラッシュで。
Imagine Killua in this moment. He must be so frustrated,
も
yeah.
う分かった。どいつもこいつも勝手に動きやがった。
Exactly.
つけられてるな。
いつから
Oh,
やばい
Krapika,
女に
man.
夢中で気づかなかった。
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah.
見えたか。
影だけ姿までは。でも路地
Okay,
に一人、
okay.
ゴミ箱の後ろに一人。
オーケ
Whoa, he's gonna go for it.
ごめん。来るなら来い。ダメだクラピカ。こんなに警戒された状況で3人を
Gon's
相
the
手になん
voice
て。
of reason, eh?
よし、一か八か。
Okay. Now Killua
ご
can.
めんなさい。もう追っかけないから許してください。
Wow.
またこの
Krapika,
子
look what
ー。
happened now.
例の子供は。
出てきな。
Right. Yeah, he can switch off for. Yeah.
もう私らに賞金かけてるマフィアはいないよ。
本当？どうした？
His innocent face. Ooh. The looks on their faces, though.
捕まえろ。
Man, Krapika's gotta get back in the game, man.
俺だ。ベー
He's
ジ
a
タク
loose cannon all of a sudden.
ここで
Oh,
処罰した方がいいんじゃない？
いや、俺はお前の勘を信じる。鎖野郎とどこかでつながり
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
まだ生かした方がいい。
なぜ自分たちと関わりのない人間を殺せるの？
Oh. This episode has. Oh. Some of my favorite shots of the anime so far.
白旗を上げた割に敵意満々といった顔だ
Wow.
な。なぜだろうな。関係ないからじゃないか。いや、改めて問われると答えがたいものだな。
Yeah, it never is.
動機の言語化かあまり好きじゃないしな。しかし案外、いや、 やはりと言うべきか。自分をつかむ鍵はそこにあるか。
Oh, whoa. Oh.
なんだこいつ。
逃げようとしたら殺していい。
了解。
Man, they did that for Kropika.
もちろんちゃんと気配も消してね。焦りは禁物
Bro,
よ。
calm
分か
down.
ってる。分かってないわよ。
Go
あ
on.
なたの無謀な追跡で二人が危険にさらされているのよ。どうして二人が自ら捕まりに行ったか分かってるの？あなたがここで見つかったら誰も旅団を止められないからよ。
すまない。
どんな人間だって隙は必ずできる。
Mm.
コンクラベよ、焦らないで。スクワラは？
携帯に出ないんだ。
Wow, this is...
ああ、リストの中にセーフ
Oh, it's a beautiful,
だ。降りろ。
beautiful pen shot.
これでもそこそこ腕は立つ。
Oh, the doggo in the
修羅場をい
back.
くつも抜けてきた。そういうものだけに働く勘がある。その勘が言っている。
Oh,
俺は
he knows this is it.
ここで少しでも動いたら切るぜ。
いくつか質問するから正直に答えて。あんたの仲間に鎖を使うやつがいるでしょ。今どこ？
何の話だ。俺をノストラドファミリーのものだと分かっ。
質問に答えて。
一足先に島に戻ったよ。俺も帰るとこだったんだ。
He's not gonna sell anyone out.
本当だって。
But she'll know anyways.
言うわけねえだろ。
鎖の使い手はどこ？
I keep hearing Hanji.
そんなやつ俺の仲間にはいねえ。
最後の質
Bro, she's hot.
問。
like, really
あな
hot.
た大切な人いる？
そんなやつがいたらこんな仕事して
I
ね
mean,
え
bro,
よ。
yeah, she knows anyways. Hmm.
エリザっていうの。
てめえがエリザに指一本で。
Oh. God damn, man. That was so sad.
口で説明するのも面倒だから。二人に記憶を打ち込むわ。
Whoa. And then bullets?
メモリーボムで。
Memory bomb. Recollection bullet.
早くやれ。
Oh my god, they have everything now. Oh no.
なるほど。こんな面してやがったか。クラピカさんよ。
Kurapika-san.
てめえの面と名前殺すまで忘れねえぜ。
High octane.
もう間近まで迫ってい
The
た。
final battle. Oh, I love that episode. Love that.
キルアのアンサイクロペディア。今日ご紹介するのは信
信長
長系の能力者。半径4メートルの円を使う居合の達人。オーラを刀にまとい敵を一刀両断。
Ooh.
両断。
Okay, let's get into it, folks. I mean, first of all, as a whole, this episode is easily a contender for, I don't know, top 10, top 5 episodes of the series so far. For me, at least. I mean, they directed the hell out of this episode. Fantastic directing. I mean, there's this palpable sense of, actual stakes, right? And then, of course, beyond the specific nature of the stakes being palpable, the episode as a whole is quite palpable, isn't it? And then, of course, the art direction in this one, the cinematography and the animation in this one is quite a standout, right? It feels like a showpiece episode. And then, of course, it kind of continues that moody tone that I love so much that was essentially established really early on in the arc, in the Yorknew City arc, especially as far as the Phantom Troupe is concerned, right? I mean, yes, sometimes there is a bit of a shift. You kind of go back to that episode that introduced Zepile, right? There's a dramatic shift in the I don't know, in the, not the structure, but the presentation of the episode itself, the look of the episode itself, right? It's really quite, I don't know, wholesome and sunny and all of that, right? But the really specific moody tone that is kind of the majority of this arc is really, really, truly present in this episode. A lot of low light shots, beautiful angles, a lot of low angles actually, and fantastic dynamic range, the coloring, of course. I mean, it's an absolute treat for me at least, and yeah, these really specific shots. I mean, there's a handful of them in this one, right? More than a handful that I really kind of classify as some of the best I've seen so far, right? Some of the most evocative I've experienced so far in the anime. I mean, that bleak and dreary tone is just so perfect for the subject matter, right? For this specific arc. But the thing is, even though the pacing of this episode is this really high octane approach, the ending of it is really kind of emotional, or it ends off on quite an emotional note, right? The death of Squala. Now, of course, the death itself is not shocking or surprising at all, but it still manages to be quite emotional. And the crazy thing about this is that he had no idea that he's essentially carrying, a tracking device. He had no, chance of knowing that. But us as the audience, right? It's like, God damn it! If only he didn't bring those, right? The eyes. But again, he knows just how much they mean. And yeah, even though there are copies, he simply had no other choice but to bring them, right? And again, Kortopi is just absolutely clutch. Kind of as expected, because they kind of left him for last. I mean, there's still one more, and that's essentially the one name I'm still not really trying out, because I don't feel like I've got a decent grasp on it. I mean, I've heard a few of the members say it. I mean, the thing is, they do give us a bit of insight in the Hunterpedia about him, right? I'm speaking of the boxer fellow who's bandaged up. Apparently there's a bunch of holes all over his body. So yeah, let's see if his ability comes into play at all in this arc. But yeah, going back to Squala's death, I thought it was handled really quite effectively, right? As far as emotional stakes go. Now listen, this is something that happens quite a bit, right before a character's death, you kind of humanize them quite a bit, right? And it's one of the reasons it becomes such a major death flag, right? It's really quite unmissable. Maybe they could have done that a few episodes ago, right? Give us like a scene of Squala, or give us that scene specifically, perhaps, him looking to, find another gig, and, establishing that, he really does truly care for these dogs, and he wants to provide for them. And of course, his partner, Eliza, right, whose name comes up, and yeah, that's kind of like his final moment, isn't it, before Nobunaga separates his head from his body. I mean, even that shot, it's really quite morbid, but the shot itself is phenomenal, isn't it? They've used that once before, that specific shot. It was, Gon and Hisoka back in Heaven's Arena. But ultimately, he is a bit of a side character. He's not really a major character, right? Again, that's not to diminish anything. A lot of times side characters can be really quite impactful. They can leave an impact, or they can have an impact on the story. But of course, Squala is not that type of a supporting cast member, right? Like as far as impactful side characters go, or supporting cast members go, or impact characters go, someone like Grisha Jaeger comes to mind, right? Of course, Squall is not quite on that level, but they do make it a point, rather, to really humanize him in his final episode, in his final appearance, rather. But yeah, I thought it was really quite a sad, emotional moment. Him realizing that, okay, I've been in some tricky situations, right? And I've got the instincts to kind of know, oh, I'll get out of this. But this time, it felt different. He knew this is it. These are his final moments. That moment he kind of looks back, and you've got all of his dogs, and those looks on their faces. Oh God, But in his final moments, he was selfless. At no point did he feel the need to make a deal, or cut a deal, or, proposition something that could, potentially get him out of this. No. I mean, he showcased quite a bit of character in his final moments, right? And made sure to, kind of keep track of the things that are most important in those moments, be it letting the dogs out, right? Making sure that they are safe and they don't get caught up in any of the crossfire or anything else. Not that I think that the Troupe members would have done anything to the dogs, because that simply just doesn't serve any purpose at all, right? And then of course, once the dogs are gone, the next bit of, I don't know, show of strength in these final moments is to not give up anyone, right? And the thing is, it's not as if, they've been together. It's not as if Squala really truly considers them friends, but there is an honor. There is this honor system, And I don't know, just something about that, something about Squala just kind of holding strong in these final moments. I found it really quite impressive, and for that reason, it was emotional as well, to see someone kind of getting caught up in all of this, someone who's clearly, quite a mismatch for the troupe itself. And the thing that really kind of made me feel for him as well is that, in his final moments, he understands that, okay, she knows about Eliza, right? So because of that, he probably also kind of inferred that, okay, she was able to get the information out of me. So, he knows that, okay, they know about Kurapika anyways, about the chain user anyways. So, he died knowing that, okay, his loved one in Eliza, and then of course, the information he wasn't trying to put out there about the chain user is out there anyways. And the thing is, Pakunoda didn't really have to, mention that at all about Eliza. She didn't really have to do that, right? It didn't serve any purpose to them, but she made the choice to do it anyways. And then, of course, after she is able to retrieve that information, gain that insight, those memories from Squala, she kind of showcases one of her other abilities, right? Memory bomb. It's quite handy, isn't it? I mean, she conjures up those recollection bullets and brings Kortopi and Nobunaga, specifically up to speed. I mean, even the presentation there, Nobunaga getting shot up and then having that sudden burst of, Kurapika's look, his face, his name as well, Kurapika-san, as he calls him. There's this really specific sense of, oh shit, it's gotten to that point now. Right? They have the name, they have the face, right? But of course, one of the standout moments of this episode as well is Kurapika's disguise. So of course, even if Nobunaga and Kortopi and Pakunoda know about him now, or at least his name and his look, right? At least he's still got that going for him. He's got that disguise. So of course, it's a great choice to have that disguise on. But also, she didn't mention it just yet because it was the ending of the episode. So maybe in the next episode. But now it truly should ring a bell, right? The face should be familiar to Pakunoda, right? Because again, it's been a bit of a head scratcher that she hasn't brought this up. That, Kurapika actually, came up to her. He grabbed the fake Scarlet Eyes. And even earlier in the episode, at Troupe HQ, she had another chance to actually bring it up. But she doesn't. So at this point, it is becoming clear that, okay, she actually didn't really pay attention to the person that actually grabbed the fake eyes, the fake Scarlet Eyes, right? She didn't pay attention to the chains that are out on Kurapika's hands. But yeah, now that she's actually seen the image, right, from the memories of Squala, maybe it's going to finally ring a bell and she can be like, oh, okay, hold on. This is someone that I did see. But, even beyond that, I mentioned the beginning of the episode, there's that moment as Crollo finally kind of pieces it all together. Hell, he's even kind of annoyed that he wasn't able to do this earlier, or he didn't do this earlier because it's all right there. He finally understood that, okay, this is someone who took this gig, right? Specifically for this reason, because of course, it's known that Neon is known for being really into body parts, right? A collector of body parts. And then of course, after reading about the Scarlet Eyes and the fortunes, they bring up the clan, right? The clan that had the Scarlet Eyes and all of that. So, I mean, that whole scene is really, really quite satisfying, isn't it? Right? Crollo going step by step and essentially, logically coming to the conclusion that, okay, these are the chain users' two motives, right? And it all checks out. It all makes complete sense. So for that reason, it really is quite satisfying to have a character like Crollo, put it all together, right? That it was there the whole time. And then, of course, that notion of him calling himself an idiot in that moment, and even kind of thinking, what's wrong with me? Let's kind of come back to that a little bit later, because there is some fantastic character insight, or at least the beginning stages of, this insight into the inner workings of someone like Crollo, right? And the really fascinating bit here is that Crollo himself is not some, final product. Yes, he's really quite competent. He's really quite impressive, right? Cunning, and just, an incredible person. All of that being said, you see just in that moment, in that scene, and I'm speaking of Gon, posing that question. And then of course, there's a bit more on Gon as well there, right? Again, much to be explored once I kind of get to that segment. But yeah, he didn't immediately dismiss the question, right? Yes, he might have thought that he had an immediate response, but then he's kind of, I don't know, he almost immediately kind of checks himself on that, and he begins to think about it, right? There's this really fantastic internal monologue, and even from a visual standpoint, it's presented in such a fascinating manner, right? That all of a sudden, everything else around him is kind of cut out, right? As us, the audience, is getting this internal monologue. And it's really quite exciting to kind of get to that point, right? That it is now beginning to get to that point. And yeah, I'm still hoping for this potential backstory that they've kind of been alluding to, at a few points now. But yeah, let's put a pin in that. I'll come back to that in a bit. But let's kind of look at the situation as a whole, as of this point, right? It's quite the setup, isn't it? Because now, two people that Kurapika cares for quite a bit, right? They are once again the prisoners of the Phantom Troupe. And, the unfortunate bit is that they ended up being captured because of him, entirely because of him, his really unpredictable outburst that kind of happens in this episode, right? Yes, you can plan for it all you want, and it can be a great plan. And then, of course, the others can expect Kurapika to behave in a specific manner and kind of not even have to think about that. Is Kurapika going to be okay? It was almost kind of foregone conclusion. Okay, yeah, Kurapika is going to be fine. So, this is not something they'll have to tackle in the field at a moment's notice, right? But that's how life is, right? It actually felt really quite realistic that Kurapika does have this moment, right? That he does end up putting everyone in danger, that Kurapika does lose control, that he does abandon all of the plans, right? And all of a sudden just flips everything on its head. And puts people like, children essentially like Killua and Gon in really quite a tricky situation. Hell, they actually handle it really quite effectively, really quite mature. You see Gon's the voice of reason as he does see Kurapika on the other end, ready to actually step out and go against them, right? He knows it. Gon knows it as well. Us, the audience, knows that he's not going to be able to do anything against three members of the troupe, including the leader himself, right? And Gon is the one who is sitting there and thinking to himself, stop, Kurapika. There's no chance, the two of us can take on three members of the Phantom Troupe, right? It really is quite telling that Gon is the one who is thinking about this. And, again, it's also, an indicator of the growth that Gon has experienced since the beginning of the anime, beginning of the story. And of course, Killua is really quite frustrated about all of it. First of all, finding out that Kurapika ran after them, right? Just abandoned the whole plan. And then, because of that, Gon running after Kurapika, right? He's concerned about Gon as well. And then, there's that moment, these people just do anything they want, right? And then, of course, Killua comes in clutch as well because, he's able to get into that situation and switch out for Kurapika, right? Meaning he hid his presence so effectively that those three members of the troupe did not know that there is a third person there, right? So they actually bought into it that, okay, the entire time it was these two, right? And, luckily it kind of checks out as well because, they've had a prior run-in, with the Phantom Troupe, Gon and Killua, that is. So it kind of almost made sense that, they're still tailing us. Kurapika should be really quite thankful for both Gon and Killua in that moment, right? That they gave themselves up because they knew, Kurapika simply cannot be caught here. I mean, it's as simple as him losing all composure the moment he saw multiple members of the Phantom Troupe, right? Not just one, multiple members. And imagine, see, I'm not excusing Kurapika losing it just altogether in that moment, but you kind of have to look at it from his perspective as well. I mentioned a few episodes ago, no one should experience the things that Kurapika has experienced in, the past 24 hours, right? I believe I called it an absolute mindfuck of finding out that, okay, the Phantom Troupe, or, a majority of it, or a solid chunk of them, half of them are gone, they're dead, including the leader. And then, kind of having that moment, all of a sudden he has nothing, right? He's hollow. He's lost his purpose. to then kind of coming to terms with that and, listening to his friend Gon, that he does care for quite a bit, and deciding, yeah, Gon's right. I am going to pivot and focus on that, retrieving the eyes of my fallen clan, to then having his entire world rocked by Hisoka's text once again, right? Pulling him right back in, to then, in this episode, seeing multiple members of the troupe standing right there, right at the exit of the station. You've got to be thinking, from losing my purpose altogether, from losing my chance at vengeance altogether, to having multiple members of the troupe, the people that did that to my clan, standing right there. It's not like a major head scratcher, the reason he lost his composure, right? He does, and it's terrible that he did, but it's not some baffling moment, right? If you think about it, it's not. You truly get to see in this episode that the inner turmoil is affecting his judgment. It did affect his judgment, and he himself did not know that it's going to play out like this. Like I said, you can plan all you want, but in the field, things like this can happen. He himself did not know that he's going to react in this manner. Of course, he thought to himself, yeah, I'll be composed, I'll be fine, I'll keep to the plan. But again, that's human nature. For that reason, it felt really quite realistic. And, the thing I really enjoyed here, or not enjoyed, rather, the thing I really appreciated here is Melody's role in this. Melody really having a go at him for his behavior, for his head loss, right? She kind of puts him in his place at that moment, right? That, come on, you're a loose cannon. You can't be doing this because of your outburst, because of your head loss. Look at this. Your enemy ended up capturing them because of your actions, right? So yeah, now, maybe the pacing might not allow it, but maybe there could be a moment in the next episode, a moment to himself, a moment of reflection. Kurapika might come to understand, oh shit, yeah, I really messed up there, big time. Now, going back to my initial point about kind of looking at the picture as a whole, now you have Kurapika, who's also put in a position that has him in a rock and a hard place, right? Kind of like how Pakunoda's fortune also kind of alluded to as well. So, that could be on the horizon as well. Really, it could be quite imminent. And now it truly is putting Kurapika in that position that I felt that the story might actually put him in. And that's, making that choice, right? Making that choice, his friends or a chance at vengeance, right? This is, it feels good. It kind of feels good that it is actually playing out how I kind of thought it might play out. But, that's just a credit to the writing of the anime. Right, that it could potentially set up that kind of conundrum, and now it's there. They are the Phantom Troupe's prisoners, Gon and Killua. And see, the thing at this point is they could have killed them. Sure, they could have killed them, and I think Machi even suggested it. But again, Chrollo, he feels that there is something more to it. Right? Again, he's kind of trusting Machi's instincts as well, even though she's kind of telling him not to. She's actually spot on once again. But, the really tricky aspect of this is that they can actually just straight up get Pakunoda to test them or look at them again, use her ability on them again. Because now, there's enough of a suspicion, enough of a reason for, someone like Chrollo to think, okay, there could be a connection. They keep kind of turning up. So yeah, that is another risky component of this. So yeah, that's another really tricky and risky component of this. So, really quickly, Kurapika and, Melody and Leorio are going to have to do something here to, get something over the Phantom Troupe. Because right now, the Phantom Troupe holds all of the leverage. And the thing is, the fortunes are really quite clutch in this case, right? Because you can kind of pick out certain things, right? Because, see, I know from Hisoka's fortune that he is going to be handed Chrollo at some point, if I am to take that literally, right? And again, if you are to kind of look into the fortune itself, it's meant to be someone that fits Kurapika's description, right? So that is still something that is meant to happen, because ultimately the Phantom Troupe does decide to stay, right? And that is exactly how Hisoka needs this to play out. So, the buildup of his fortunes could come true. or the components of his fortune could come true. And also on that front, now, there's a bit of a switch out, right? Crollo told Shalnark he'll switch out, right? Because they need Cortopi, because of his incredible end abilities as well, right? So as of this point, it is Hisoka, Franklin, and Shalnark back at HQ, right? So yeah, you have to think about, you do kind of have to think about those two people, Franklin and Shalnark, being in the same place as Hisoka, right? Especially because Shalnark is another one that's on the chopping block. But going back to my point about Melody, kind of, having a go at Kurapika, rightfully so, of course. He needed that. That was certainly required, and I love that Melody is not shy about it, right? She's known him enough now at this point that she feels like she can take that tone and kind of help reel him back in, right? Keep him tethered to the task at hand, to the things that matter most. But at the end of the day, Melody is just the person Kurapika needs in these moments, right? It's been clear that she is going to be so good for Kurapika for some time now. I think I noted that, or made that comment, or speculated about that some time ago at this point, before any of this took off. I think I reiterated that point back on the rooftop, right? That incredible bit of insight into Melody, her potential backstory. So yeah, it's playing out like that. Listen, if it wasn't for Melody, Kurapika could have been dead twice over on multiple occasions. There's that moment back in those early stages of Uvogin and the Phantom Troupe kind of flexing a bit, right? Uvogin taking out a few of those shadow beasts. At that moment, Kurapika was ready. Again, reckless, right? And she knew he's about to die if I don't step in right here. And she does step in, and she's able to calm down everyone, not just Kurapika, everyone in that moment. I just love that scene so much. She's kind of like a professor, like a teacher, right? Have all of us calmed down now? I just love the cadence of that voice so much. I really do. I mean, Melody as a whole is a fantastic supporting cast member. I really, really enjoy the inclusion of this character and, the impact that she does have on the character arc or just the character progression of someone like Kurapika. So yeah, once again, she was really quite effective in providing just the right perspective for Kurapika in that specific moment, right? She's got a knack for it. She truly does. But also I'm beginning to feel a little bit sad because, the arc itself, this incredible arc, Yorknew City, is, essentially in its final stages, right? It's the final leg of the arc, essentially. But the thing is, yeah, they've already kind of set up the next arc, and that's meant to be Greed Island. And, again, it's a focus on Gon and Killua, much like how it was a focus on Gon and Killua after the Hunter exam. And, Heaven's Arena is entirely focused on Gon and Killua. So, right, it's bittersweet because I know once it pivots into the next arc, some of these characters are not going to be the focus again. And that's assuming if Melody actually makes it out of this, right? Because let's not kind of overlook the possibility of Melody potentially being on the chopping block, right? Because of her association with Kurapika at this point, right? Listen, of course, Gon and Killua are not going to be in any major trouble. They're not going to be dying anytime soon, of course. Of course, there's the potential of getting badly injured. And, something like that could be something that could finally give Kurapika that, I don't know, that reality check, perhaps, that could finally kind of shake him from this path that he's on. But yeah, Melody's still attached to Kurapika. Melody could find herself in a tough situation because of this, right? Could she get badly injured? Could she potentially die? Could that actually function as a significant blow, right? This wake-up call, the reality check that Kurapika needs to finally kind of abandon this path that he's on? It's a possibility I cannot overlook. But also, speaking of Melody, this episode actually is a bit of a showcase, right? It puts her abilities in the field, in the spotlight, right? She's the star for a lot of these moments, right? Be it her actually, kind of contacting Kurapika, it's a fantastic scene. And, sorry, not Kurapika, Killua, right? And of course, someone like Killua, someone, of his background is really quite impressed with Melody, right? Because these are certain techniques that are quite useful for someone like an assassin. But something quite fascinating. You actually have Killua voice it out loud that, oh, I used to be an assassin. Now, of course, he can think that all he wants, but, there's people like Silva, his father, that certainly feel that, sooner or later, he is going to return, right? I think that was, one of the discussion points I had, some of the speculation I had back in the Zoldyck Estate arc, Rescue Killua arc, that he is letting him go out there, right? Experiencing all of this, letting him be with people that he considers good friends, because ultimately he's really quite confident and believes that, he is going to return because he is my son. But I love that it does showcase her abilities, right? She's able to distinguish between male and female footsteps. And then once she's able to kind of pick up on it, she remembers them. She remembers distinct footsteps, right? It's kind of similar to the heartbeats that she's able to pick up on. And of course, she is really quite complimentary on Killua's own, skills as a former assassin, according to Killua. But yeah, she said these are the quietest footsteps I've ever heard, right? Really impressive technique, she tells him. But, a few moments ago, I mentioned Uvogin, right? Ultimately, his death, it actually opens up a lot of doors, doesn't it? As far as gaining insight for the troupe, right? It's a catalyst. Right, because of that, now it really gave us, the audience, this fantastic story arc as well from that point on, right? And it's been established for some time now, but the Phantom Troupe is just so nuanced, right? The intricacies of the relationships within, the really specific dynamics, and just them as a whole, right? Especially given their backgrounds, or at least some of them, or at least the leader himself, right? Coming from Meteor City. I'm going to go ahead and assume most of them come from Meteor City as well. Maybe they picked up one or two, a few of the others perhaps along the way. But I think some of the most fascinating insight, and again, it still kind of feels like I'm only scratching the surface. Some of the most fascinating insight is on Crollo, right? And this is because of Uvogin's death and, subsequently his reaction to it, right? And because of that, the story or the anime is able to put him in situations that gives us more on Crollo, right? How he functions, how he's taking this. And then, in this episode, I can finally kind of go back to that moment now, Gon asking that question, posing that question. How can you kill people who have nothing to do with you, right? Again, the question itself is also something that gives us a bit of insight on Gon, right? It certainly feels like one of those moments, once again, setup moments that I could come back to later, as the character ages up, as the character progresses and has more experiences. And also, of course, there's that notion of this potentially being a stalling tactic. But to me, it kind of felt like, okay, I think he truly does want to know, right? Because now, they get to meet the leader of the troupe. So the chance to ask him about this is something, Gon could not pass up, something that immediately came to mind. So yeah, he posed the question. And of course, Crollo's reaction to that is really quite fascinating, right? Because, this is a man, again, as put together as he is, as competent as he is, right? And as impressive as he is, this is a man that doesn't really truly have all the answers. This feels like a man who still is trying to find his place in this world, right? There's even this element of, rage against the machine, or raging against the machine, right? There's this conflict, perhaps identity conflict within, identity crisis, potentially. Again, it's the beginning stages of it, so I need more. But the opening bits of this are really quite fascinating, something to really latch onto. And something that's kind of clear about this is that, this is not a question that he gets that often, right? Because of course, not too many people are going to be in a position to be asking Crollo that question, right? This is, again, a unique situation. But again, like I said earlier, he does not dismiss it because it does get him going. It gets him thinking, right? Because, this is a question that he doesn't really have to ponder all that much. Hell, there's an indication here, a direct indication. This is not something he truly even thinks he can voice, right? It's something he doesn't like to voice, rather. Because at one point he said, I'm not fond of it, right? To verbally express our motives, right? It's almost as if it's more so of this feeling, something that just feels right? Intuitive, logical within his headspace. But, the moment he actually thinks about trying to convey that to someone else, he had this moment of self-reflection, And then of course it continues and he said, but oddly enough, or perhaps it's not that odd, right? Is that the key to understanding myself? That, that being the really significant moment or a portion of that scene, really establishing that, okay, this is a man that doesn't even completely understand himself yet, right? And the thing is, of course, it can be a lifelong journey. Some people never truly really understand themselves, right? That's certainly a notion. And of course, it's intrinsically linked to his upbringing, right? Being from Meteor City, being a person that is meant to be no person at all, right? Someone that's forgotten, right? They've been kind of leaning into that aspect of the people that come from Meteor City. But then also you have to look at everything he has built, right? And perhaps exploring the reasoning behind that. And of course, I'm referring to the Phantom Troupe, right? He built that. He built this family. I mean, this character, Crollo, was already so intriguing, right? He just has that it factor. It just pulls you in. But to now get this bit of insight, right? It makes him even more fascinating, even more intriguing, doesn't it? And I'm really hoping it builds on this, in the next few episodes as well. And then of course, looking at Gon's role in this scene, yeah, it's kind of in line with the really, fascinating and really quite a unique moral compass that they've kind of established for a character like Gon. See, the thing they've made really quite clear is that he's always open to understanding something. I mean, it's simply something innate to Gon, isn't it? Right? This notion of wanting to understand, right? I mean, just really quite recently, it was highlighted in that episode, right? Zephiel's introduction. So, at this point, you see that Gon is a little bit, perplexed about the notion of being able to kill without a motive, a true motive, right? So he just point blank asked the question, how can you kill people that you simply do not know or that have nothing to do with you, right? So yeah, it's always fascinating to see these kind of moments as far as Gon is concerned, as far as his, morality is concerned. And, this is something I'm sure is going to be built upon. Really feels like something that is going to be explored at different times of the story, at different moments of the story, right? At different moments of Gon's character progression, right? So that, that of course is an exciting prospect. But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. It's a fantastic episode. It is. It's one of the best of the series so far. The storyboarding is just phenomenal in this one, isn't it? I'm really quite excited to go through the episode once again, as I edit and as I, grab all the frames that I want to grab. I'm just excited about the prospect of that. But yeah, if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in early access or perhaps even full opacity or timer-based full length, consider checking out the Patreon page and potentially supporting the channel. The links are in the description and the pinned comment. Also links to social media, things like Twitter and Instagram, if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for episode 57, almost to episode 60. How about that, eh? But until then, take it easy.